Hello, this is CurtisCroweThePhotoPro here, and today we're going to talk about a question I asked on Facebook to other photographers. And that question was, if you could go back in time and tell yourself one thing when you first started photography, what would it be? Maybe some business advice, different direction with gear, perhaps something about composition or the exposure triangle that makes everything click. Let me know down below. I'm excited to see what everyone's experience is. All right, and here are the top 5 responses to what other photographers would tell themselves if they could go back in time now that they've learned more. And at number 5, we have a response from Emily from the group. And her response I did really like. It was, just because you could shoot wide open doesn't mean you have to. It doesn't give you the best image quality. And I love that mentality. At the beginning of my photography career, I got a nifty 50, and it was an f1.8, and I think a lot of photographers do that. And you realize quickly that shooting at f1.8 doesn't give you sharp images. It just gets you really smooth images. And if you're trying to get certain details, like details in the eyes, it's not the best way to shoot. So coming in at number 4 is from our friend from the group, Christy. She had a really good point, and that was to shoot in manual and raw, it really does give you a good image quality, and there's no reason why you shouldn't shoot in manual or raw, especially when you're learning. You don't necessarily learn math by memorizing the answers. You work on equations and figure out the solutions. So learning manual is always a really good option. And the sooner you learn it, the faster you become at it. And it starts becoming second nature to adjust your settings on the fly in order to give you the best image quality every time. And as far as shooting raw, there's very few drawbacks to shooting raw. Once you download the codec in Windows or Mac already has them loaded, there's nothing stopping you. You can view your images, you can edit them with more power than you could if they were JPEGs. So that's why that comes in at number 4, is because although a lot of photographers do start off with raw and or manual, there's also a lot of photographers who don't. And coming in at number 3 is Desiree's response, which is not using actions and presets so much in the early stages of editing. The presets are a great option to fall back onto, even as a professional photographer, even after you learn how to do all your edits. Presets are an additional option in order to speed up your work, but it's not always the best option if you're looking for quality. So that's why hers comes in at number 3, is because photographers don't always get into editing right away, but when they do, it's a common mistake at the beginning. And I know a lot of photographers, including Desiree, as she has responded here, would go back and slap themselves silly for using those kind of presets or actions or those editing styles. And coming in at number 2 is Jason from the group, and he said something that is rather powerful that we usually hear a lot when we're starting out, and that is don't sell yourself short. You are in fact your worst critic, which is very true. We are our worst critics. We do sell ourselves short a lot of times. Now, there is exceptions to every rule. For example, if you're a new photographer and you took a couple really great shots and you think you're ready for weddings, that might not necessarily be the case. If you've handled your DSLR for only a month, you're not exactly qualified to do something as important as someone else's best day of their life. Everything within moderation or everything with an exception, but it is a very powerful one, because we will always do shoots at the beginning of our careers for half of what we should be doing it for, or maybe even less than half, or doing free work. So that's why that comes in at number 2, is because it is a very honest and truthful thing that a lot of photographers would go back and tell themselves, listen, you're worth more than this. And coming in at number 1, we have Steve's response, which is take some art composition classes, take as many as you can take until it clicks. And that's the number 1 response. I can't stress that enough. You could be a photographer with a cell phone and you can outperform a photographer with $10,000 worth of gear if you know how to use composition and they do not. It makes the biggest difference in all cases, because that's what the client is actually paying for, is your eye in photography, your art style of photography, the way you can pose your images, the way you pull out emotion in what you take pictures of. That is what really makes a real photographer a great photographer. And that's why that comes in at number 1. All right, well, that is it for this video. Again, that was the top 5 responses. If photographers could go back in time, smack their old photographer selves in the face, and tell them to change one thing about their photography when they first started off. I hope this did open your eyes for a few things that could potentially improve your photography. And if you did enjoy this video, please hit that like button, share it to your other photographer friends, go ahead and subscribe. We come out with 1 to 2 videos a day, Monday through Friday, for your viewing pleasures. Again, this has been Curtis Crowe, the Photo Pro, and as I always do, toodles.